Hi, I'm Jasmine,
And I'm Andrea,
and we're Natural You Yarns.
coming to you on the first day of our
Spring Floozy Knit-Along.
spring Floozy Knit-Along. I got all tongue-tied, sorry.
So today is the kickoff, and we are all casting on. You may have started already, but we're going to talk today about cast on, different methods, right?
Yep.
What might work for you.
And swatching and short ropes.
Right. So before casting on, you really should have done a swatch.
Yes.
Did you do a swatch?
I did.
Ooh.
And I might do swatches slightly different than other people. I am good at doing swatches. I'm not good at washing and blocking them. But usually what I do is I start out with the recommended needle for the gauge. So for if you're doing Floozy Too, the gauge is where the heck is it? I thought it was 27.
Do you want me to read it?
Yes.
Needles and Notions, US 4, which is a 3.5 millimeter circular needles needed at least 32 inches. And you're also going to need a 3.25 for the smaller circumference. That doesn't have gauge listed there.
Right
Gauge is down here. 27 stitches and 37 rounds.
Right. So I usually do a gauge sample, the number of stitches that it says you need for 4 inches. And on each side, I sometimes do a garter border so that the whole thing doesn't curl and it's easier to measure. Anyway, I do a significant amount, like 2 or 3 inches, good 3 inches of swatch. And then I measure to see whether or not I'm getting gauge. And
because you can lay it out on a flat surface
yeah,
and sort of
stretch it just a little bit.
As if you were going to block it.
And then measure it. If you're getting fewer stitches for the 4 inches than the gauge calls for, so let's say you're getting 25 instead of 27, then you need to go down a needle size and knit another 3 inches and measure again to see if you're at gauge yet. And I just keep the same swatch going because I like to undo my swatch and use it in my project.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't like to waste that yarn.
Especially for well, we're slightly bigger girls, so we end up needing more yarn.
Yeah.
And especially when we like our sweaters longer. I know some people like to crop theirs, some other people don't like full-length sleeves.
I like it longer.
Because we like it longer, and in this case, we're doing a full sleeve. Every little bit of yarn counts.
Sometimes.
That in mind, we do offer 50-gram skeins in a number of our colors, specifically on the Echo base. So if you end up needing a little bit more, but you don't want to pay for a full skein, there is that option.
Right,
yeah.
If you've got the right color.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so that's, we do highly recommend that you do gauge. I read some of the project notes. When you go on Ravelry, you can see other people's projects, and some people write notes. And it seems to be that a lot of people found this to be a little bit larger fitting than it maybe even indicates. So
it does talk about positive ease, right?
Right.
But I think I read somewhere 5 to 10 centimeters.
Right. So depending on how you like it to, like your sweaters to fit or cardigans, then you need to look at page 7, which has the final measurements, and this is from the Floozy Too. There's a diagram of the sweater, and it indicates the various different measurements for like from the neckline to the length of the sleeve to the chest circumference. And the very first one, and it has it both in inches and in centimeters, whichever way you like to do it.
This is when a partner in crime, either a knitting partner or a live-in partner, is helpful, because then you can get someone to measure you like you're at the tailor. Yeah. So that you can custom make it to your size.
Right. So I was a little bit off in the chest measurement, but it gives you the final chest measurement. And I know that I knit a little bit loose, so even though my measurement was pretty much what was indicated on the pattern, because I wanted a little bit looser, I don't mind if it goes looser by the time I get to the chest.
So but then you're disregarding your swatch. You're like, I got gauge. But I think I'm going to end up being a looser knitter, so you're kind of throwing it to the wind
I know.
here. You're telling them the opposite.
I am.
Whichever pattern you choose to do, because there are two options, Floozy and Floozy Too, which is
right.
a sweater where you're knitting in the round. Floozy is a cardigan. I do think that the designer ended up making multiple sizes for herself, and she shows you how they fit. One is snug and form-fitting, and the other is a bit looser.
Right.
So the finished measurements on this page
aren't necessarily your actual bust measurement. This is how big it's going to fit you. So if you, let's say you have a 40-inch chest and you do not want it to fit tight, then you would do the large, which is a 41, almost 42-inch chest measurement, and you would have that 3 inches of positive ease.
Right. So before getting all gung-ho and casting on, definitely flip through the pattern, make sure you find the abbreviation page, make sure you find the sizing chart and page with the finished measurements after blocking, so that you are choosing the one you really want.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, with no further ado, you are then ready to cast on.
Casting on can be fun. It can be nerve-wracking.
It's exciting.
No, but you know, yarn chicken, like the long tail cast on method.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes people run out of yarn, so we're going to talk about techniques so that doesn't happen.
Right. We have Jasmine is adding some links to a couple of different cast on methods, so that you can, if you want to learn a new cast on or want to be sure you're doing a cast on correctly, you can watch these tutorial videos to get a better idea of how they go. You can use the cable cast on, in which case you don't need to worry about a tail.
It's also a good one if you're a beginner knitter. Learning to knit, the cable cast on cements the idea of the knit stitch as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the majority of people that I know tend to prefer doing a long tail cast on.
If you're doing a long tail cast on, a trick I learned, I don't know where I learned it, but I learned that you leave about 3 to 6 inch tail, and then you, with the needle that you're going to be using, you wrap your yarn around it 10 times, and then you pull it off, holding the end where you started and the last part that wrapped around, and however long that is 10 stitches worth of yarn, and you're going to multiply that, you know,
by the number of cast on stitches.
Right. So sort of measuring it against your yarn and keeping it going and pulling
so
back.
if it happens to take 10 inches and that's 10 stitches, then for 100 stitches you would need 100 inches.
Right.
And
I don't measure it. I just sort of eyeball it with my eye and grab more yarn and then flip it over and grab more yarn. And
seesaw method.
The seesaw method, where I'm just snatching more yarn and each segment looks to be the same length.
Right. And I always did it by an arm length is approximately 30 stitches. But that depends on your gauge. So Jasmine's is much more accurate, I'm sure. And you've never had a problem of running out of yarn on your...
No, in fact, I have the opposite. Sometimes because I started with such a long tail, like I want to make sure I leave my 4 to 6 inches to weave in the end, I end up having a little bit excess yarn, which is manageable. You just snip off the extra and keep going.
But the advantage to that is that you don't run out.
Yes.
On a tail.
Because there's nothing worse than especially if you're casting on a bigger size, casting on 200 stitches or something, and not having enough.
Running out at 195.
Yeah. It's so frustrating.
So that's a really cool thing. I'm going to try doing that next time. I've never done that before.
Right.
Yeah.
I know, you always taught me like 1 arm's length, and then for, I don't know, I couldn't figure out how I went from there, but that was your method. So,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I guess it doesn't work with all gauges of yarn, so do what Jasmine said.
Of course, there's another cast on that you prefer and you actually used for this one.
Yes, I like doing the German twisted cast on, which is a little bit more twisty, I guess you could put it.
It's like a fancy long tail.
Right. And so we've also included the video for doing that. Mm-hmm. Because the added bonus to that video is that it shows you how to join it in the round so that you cannot see where the join is. And if you you know how there's usually a jog and you have to, I don't know if you can see that.
Well, they can see that it's a pretty straight line.
Yeah, it's a straight line.
Nice straight edge.
Yeah, so this video for the twisted German cast on, at the end of showing you how to cast on, it shows you how to do this join so that in the round you don't see it.
Because most people know the trick of casting on an extra stitch and then when joining in the round, knitting those two together.
But this is even better.
Yes, because it takes it further. It says, look, when you do that, you're not aligning your stitches. They're not both angled in the same direction. So here's how to correct that. Yeah, it's not traditionally part of the German twisted cast on.
No.
The cast on itself is just a little bit of extra yarn in each stitch to give it some more stretch.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's especially helpful in socks, right? Because you don't want the band to be too tight. And if you're doing the cardigan, it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
The join.
This is strictly for the sweater because
yes.
you're going to need to pull that over your head.
Right. But we're just including options because maybe you'd like to try something new, or maybe you're not totally sure of how you did it last time.
Or maybe you're one of our newer knitters that is being really adventurous and trying to knit along with us. There are some who chose slightly different beginner-friendly sweaters, etc., but they just want to be part of the group activity.
Which is great.
Here's some video tutorials on different ways to cast on. Choose the one that you find more comfortable.
And the ones that we've included are from the original one that I found for the German twisted cast on. I have that one saved, but the other tutorial videos are by Very Pink Knits. She's phenomenal.
Love her.
Yes. And she has a new series now, which is a slow motion series, and she really does go slow motion. So you can see every single little step of where to put the needle and how to pull the thread through.
I think she has special glasses with a camera lens in them.
Oh.
Because, you know, it starts off like as you see her from across the table and she's presenting an object to you and telling you what you're going to learn, and then she says, okay, let's begin, and she puts on the glasses, and the next frame cuts to you with a bird's eye view, and it's almost as if your hands are moving and doing the motions, which is a really fun way of learning, right? Because then you can imitate it.
Yeah.
And so she must have some new technology where she can slow it down even further.
Yeah, it's really, really slow. And like, I mean, one of the videos is there's different ways of doing the same cast on too. Like I was surprised when I saw the videos because I'm used to doing what's called a slingshot method, but she had it where it was slightly different, and she said she prefers it. I forget what she called it, but it's almost like you're knitting it on kind of, but it's a long tail as well. So it's kind of interesting.
Which one is that?
The long tail cast on.
Oh, but different than how you do it.
Yes.
That's interesting.
So we've included both.
Okay. And we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves this week. Next week we're going to be talking about the yoke and the slip stitch design and how to achieve that for people who might have questions.
But today we're going to cover the German short rows.
Before we go any further, though, I should mention that I put out today a downloadable Word document that we're going to be using for the ballots. It's a new thing we're trying. Being that we do this virtually and then we have in-person and virtual nights, it's so that people can join us whether they're in the comfort of their home or not. They want to come out and meet people, but it does make the ballot or the draw a little bit more complicated. So trying something new. This document is available. You click on it, it opens for you online, and then I ask that you don't edit the version that pops up online, but you try to save it on your own computer or on your cloud, Google Drive, whatever it is you're using.
But as a Word document.
Yes.
So that you can edit it.
Exactly. If you save it as a PDF, unless you have Adobe PDF and a paid subscription, you're not going to be able to edit it. So again, and there's instructions inside. Each week, it's divided into 6 weeks. It's a chart, and each week is a headline of what we're going to be working on or how far we hope to have progressed. And then there's like a teal box in there and instructions on the document itself about how you would upload your picture there. So however far you get. Maybe you don't finish it in 6 weeks with us, but
6 weeks is not enough time for some people to finish a cardigan or a sweater.
I was watching a video the other day, a reel, and this woman was trying on each sweater on top of the next one and saying how long each sweater took her. I actually downloaded it and I'm going to share it. And she was saying like this tiny little Cumulus tee took me 80 hours, and then the next sweater, this took me 4 months, and the next sweater, this took me 6 because I had to frog the whole thing. And it's just a very realistic timeline that slow fashion takes us time. Handcrafted garments are precious because of all the time and effort and love we put into them.
And how long they last.
Yeah.
Right? So that's back to using natural fibers and sustainable living, and it's all part of being slow fashion. And knitting itself is slow fashion.
Yes. And heirloom pieces, right? If you're choosing yarn, we talk about how expensive yarn is, but good quality yarn and how to take care of it and what you're contributing to the environment, which we want to talk more about. But back to the ballot. This way, even if you don't complete your sweater, you still qualify to be part of the draw.
Yes.
You just upload the pictures as far as you got. So if you're on week 4 when we finish, which is the first sleeve, because we're going to do them out of order. We're going to try a new way of keeping this fresh and interesting for you.
Yes.
Then you just upload a picture of that and you'll get 4 ballots.
Yep.
Yeah. And that way it's fair and inclusive to all. If you have problems...
We should mention, you need to be using our yarn to be qualifying for the draw.
Yes.
So...
whether it's in your stash or you have selected some from our new selection in store and online, it does have to be our yarn that you're using to qualify for the draw.
Yes, so somewhere in your picture, put the label.
Well, for the first one at least, that would be good. Yeah,
that would be helpful.
You can have them as caked, or you can have a picture of your cast on the neckline. But definitely, if you have the band, throw the band in the picture and let us know. So
before we sign off, we do need to talk about the short rows.
Yeah, well, I wasn't ready to sign off. I'm still talking about the ballots. I created the document. People might have trouble accessing or downloading depending on your computer settings, etc. If that's the case, just reach out and I will send you one via email.
That's a great idea.
Okay. Or we'll come up with something else for you.
Yes.
Okay.
The only reason that Jasmine is saying that is because I happen to have a Chromebook. I don't have Word, the Word app downloaded on my Chromebook, so I wasn't able to save the Word document and actually edit it.
She's my prototype of problems.
I think I'd have to go further and I'd have to download the app, but I didn't.
But Word is not free. You do have to pay.
There's a free version.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got that far.
I just don't want anyone to have to pay for a Microsoft subscription.
Pay for it.
So
No.
Yeah, and we spent way too much time talking about this. There is going to be a wonderful draw at the end and a really good prize.
Yeah.
But
is this what's going to be included as part of it?
Well, we do have new bags to hit the shop.
We do, yeah.
Maybe not this one entirely because there are only a few of these. This is your new bucket bag.
Yes, and this is, I think that showing it here, we wanted to just be able to show you the scale of it. So it's definitely big enough to hold a project that is this large.
Yes.
It's not just, it's more than a sock.
This is a project that you're going to need a big project bag for. So like our other bags, Andrea has designed it to close with drawstring cinch like that. Take out some of the stuffing. Just to show off the inside. Nice big inside, round bottom. And bonus, Andrea has started including, I don't know if you can see it,
there's an inside pocket.
Inside pockets.
So that your little bag with your notions can go in there, or your cell phone, or...
And a lot of our, yeah, exactly, just to organize. A lot of our drawstring bags, that's the handle, but she's included a burlap handle
and it's not burlap, it's soft.
Oh, yeah. It's not scratchy like...
Some burlap.
Yeah.
It's not a potato sack burlap.
So we could probably shove your whole sweater in there.
I think so. You want to try it?
Yeah, let's try it.
All right, so here's 3 skeins of yarn.
Oop.
If you've got your...
Yep, if those are your extra ones you haven't skeined yet.
And then you can put your sweater in there.
Whoa. And now you shove in your needles or your little notion pouch. You cinch it all up.
And look, you don't even see the drawstring part.
No.
That's the other thing that I like about this bag, is that the cinched drawstring part is actually hidden a little bit below the surface of the bag.
Exactly.
So.
You can even tuck this string away. Yeah. And they are made with eco-printed cotton. See some of that there, these lovely leaves. They're really gorgeous. We have 3 of them at the moment, and you're obviously going to be making more.
Yes.
So, if you need a project bag.
Okay, so short rows. German short rows are actually, they sound frightening because it's an extra word in there, but German short rows are easier to do than wrap and turns because there's no wrapping. On the pattern abbreviations, you will find there's a couple of abbreviations I had never seen before, and because I didn't print the pattern, I didn't realize the abbreviations were at the end of the pattern. So there is an SL with an up arrow as an abbreviation that I had never seen before, and that just means that's where you slip one for the German short row with yarn in front, and it tells you how to actually put the yarn over the needle to create 2 loops. But I think if you're watching the video anyway on the German short rows, which is also included, then you will see exactly how that's done, because Very Pink Knits that's a slow motion one.
Right.
So you can see how that double loop forms.
But just even visualizing it now, if you're slipping with the yarn in front, and then you're turning and you need to pull the yarn to the back, that's where you're going to get that second leg over the needle.
Yes.
That you're going to... Yeah.
And the nice thing about that is, unlike wrap and turns, when you go back and you knit these double loops, then you don't get that little hole that you sometimes get with traditional short rows. Mm-hmm. So I really, really like the fact that it's like this. And this pattern is very well written.
And did you want to show it off? Because I also feel like it's a nicer finish. Like you don't see
you don't see the short rows. So this is the front. And then if you're holding it correctly for people to look, Andrea, then the back is definitely a larger section. And it's like a little arch, right? Like it's deeper here than it is here because the short rows get shorter, but you cannot see where you've turned to go back the other way.
And that is definitely the German short rows, but also it's accentuated by the yarn you chose, which is variegated.
Right.
But
and I did that on purpose because I want to be able to talk to people about the variegated yarns in case that's what they chose.
I think a lot of times people are afraid to work with a variegated yarn. They love hand-dyed yarn. They love the look of it. Like, for example, here's a skein, right? This is what you used.
Yeah.
But also here with this yellow, they're just afraid that they're going to end up with pooling.
Right.
And so the next couple weeks we're going to talk about how to alternate skeins and how to avoid that.
I think that you don't need to worry about alternating skeins for the yoke because the fact that there is an increase periodically in the number of stitches, that throws off any repetition of rounds that a color could be hitting, and also it's cut up with the other colors in the yoke, so you don't need to worry about having to alter your skeins if you have variegated yarn at all.
Right.
I worked with it just the way it is, and I didn't get any pulling. And look at actually on the back where it's a larger section, I think that the colors blended together quite
Beautiful.
nicely.
Yeah.
So.
And it's good to note that while slip stitching or mosaic knitting is less intricate than Fair Isle or stranded where you're carrying it across, you are going to be working with
just one yarn
the mini and the white, right? But you don't want to have to also be alternating your main skein color.
Right. And you don't need to.
Yeah, keep it simple, stupid.
Yes. And I think that's just about it.
Yes, that's it for this week.
For those of you that are joining us this evening, it's also okay if you start before we end up at our knit night tonight.
Yes.
But
it's easier to do a cast on when you can count without a crowd.
Right.
But yeah, bring your project or bring another project if you like need a break.
Yeah.
But
and just to talk about cast-ons a little bit more, when you're counting for a cast-on, it doesn't really matter if you're alone or not. Sometimes you lose track of how many you've cast on. I like to put a stitch marker after every 20, so that if I lose count, I only have to count the last 20.
That's very good advice, yeah. And also, it's easier to count up by 20, 40, 60, you know?
Yeah. And I just put out that number of stitch markers, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, and then after that I've just got a few left, so I only put out those 5 stitch markers, and I don't even have to count the 20s.
Right, you just automatically know. How many did you need to cast on for this neckline?
Well, that was a while back, I don't know.
Okay.
And I don't have that page printed.
Okay, so definitely see the show notes for the video tutorials we were talking about around cast on and German short rows. Don't forget to swatch. Swatch before you cast on. It'll save you a headache. Look at the sizing, the finished sizing provided by the designer, so that you know that you are choosing the correct size. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments.
Yes, and in the group of adventurous knitting is really, we established that for discussion and helping one another get through projects. So even though we're not meeting maybe regularly in person, we can talk about any issues or any hints that we want to give to other people that you've discovered as you knit along, to help each other out as we go and to build that camaraderie.
I think Andrew is saying use it like a forum page.
Yes.
You can post your accomplishments, you can post your frustrations, you can post tips, and you can post funny memes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so that's it for week 1. Hope to see you tonight at our usual spot for knit night.
And those of you further away next week at Maker's Circle,
which we'll advertise again when we do our week 2 video next Thursday.
Bye for now. Bye for now.
Be natural.
Be you.
Bye.